All right, everybody, we are live covering the severe weather in the lower Mississippi Valley area and Ohio Valley as well. As of now, we have 2 tornado warnings, which are the primary point of interest in, let's see here, we have one in Arkansas and one in very, very far southern Missouri. So, these storms are currently spread out over a several 100-mile long line. We also have a couple warnings up in Michigan as well. This is a 10% hatch day, so not expecting too many tornadoes or for them to be particularly intense. However, we definitely have that. We also have a considerable severe thunderstorm warning up in Michigan as well. Destructive storms with 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. That is not something you want to mess with. We also have a warning down here near Bloomington, Indiana. See what's going on with this one. Yeah, there's quite a hook on that thing. There's not a lot of rotation, but it definitely is present. As we move back down the line to our area of interest, we are yet again back down in far northeastern Arkansas and near the boot heel of Missouri. Now, these are all kind of in what we call a radar hole. Let's see if I can get a little better view on this northern storm here. There's some rotation in there. There's a very well-defined hook echo. But it is hard to tell exactly what's going on there with as distorted as the radar is. We do want to keep watching the rest of these storms behind the main line in the Little Rock area, as these are in prime supercell environment. This one near Cave City does have some rotation going on as well. Now, these storms are kind of expected to take a general right turn as they are intercepted by the main line that's coming through and the front that is carrying most of the energy here. So we're going to want to watch this primary area of concern. I've seen it circled a number of times, but if we get any supercells in this area, we could be in trouble because this is prime tornado environment. So let's take a look at the surface analysis currently. As of now, we are looking at 3,500 Cape in that little corner of Arkansas, which is where that concern is. Now, if you look and see, that is just to the southern end of this cell here. So this thing has plenty of instability to feed off of, as well as an absolutely wide open range for its inflow. So this is likely to be a very long-lived supercell. No guarantee that it is going to have a tornado at the moment, but there is a warning. So please be in shelter, especially if you're in Noble, Greenway, Pickett, or Pollard. It is likely that this will progress directly east as the storms are just now beginning their turn. And I have to say, there's a lot of storm chasers right in front of this thing. So if it touches down, somebody will see it. It looks like we may have some increasing velocity there. Let's swap to our 4-panel view and take a deeper look at this. Not seeing a lot on spectrum width. And I would expect that that blab of correlation coefficient, which shows debris or improperly sized objects in the air, definitely is showing there's something there, but that is most likely a hail core. I'm going to bring my camera down a little bit here too. So moving forward, we are going to want to keep watching these as they approach the Mississippi River, especially these far behind it. These could be the main show at the moment. But that is all we have for now. Let's take another look at the surface analysis. We'll start going through our composite indexes. We do have a fairly significant tornado parameter just ahead of these storms. They are moving into some very, very favorable environments. Fixed layer and effective layer similarly agree, and the violent tornado parameter is very high in that area. So yet again, we're going to need to watch these as they move into much more favorable zones. The thermodynamics are the biggest talking point of the system right now. 3,500 Cape is extremely high and far more than we need for dangerous supercells. So we're going to want to keep watching this area. The RAP has this getting all the way up to potentially 4,000 joules per kilogram. And then slowly backing down as surface heating begins to drop off and the sun goes down. But we are likely to still have 3,500 Cape just about in that area over the next 2 hours. So it is underperforming very slightly, which is a good thing, but I would not be shocked if we see some more supercells develop or those current ones continue. Latest HRRR run, which simulates reflectivity, is 22Z, although we only have 3 hours of it. But as of now, it's initialized with exactly what's happening, and as you can see, those storms are kind of expected to take a general right turn here. This is going to be the big guy if these models verify. Again, you cannot rely totally on these for the moment. But that cell right there is likely this complex back here. So yet again, this is a particular area of interest. This storm appears to be rapidly developing some rotation. This could be a problem for Cave City here very soon. I would not be shocked if we saw a tornado warning in this general zone somewhere here very, very soon if that rotation continues. Let's take a look at that from the Little Rock radar as well, see if we can get a bit of a higher resolution. Yeah, we're looking like we have some significant inflow with that storm. I doubt that there's anything tornadic going on with it yet, but there probably will be soon. So let's keep a very close eye on that. Cave City, Strawberry, Minturn, Alicia, Lynn, all of y'all need to be ready and prepared for a tornado warning, potentially headed into your shelters as necessary. This could be a very dangerous storm if it gets enough fuel to kick off some tornadic activity here. Now let's take a look back a few frames on the loop once it loads, and it does look like it's getting organized. You can kind of see just this general north-south areas, multiple areas of mild rotation condensing into this larger area in that little hook there. As of now, it's primarily a hailer. We are looking at probably inch hail, 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So this is a very strong storm, but it does not yet have a tornado or a tornado possible tag. But there is a tornado watch in this area, so please take it seriously. Going back over to Memphis, starting to see more of that supercell structure as this one is trying to wrap up. There's still a lot of chasers in that area, so as of now, it's not likely that anything is going on. And if we pan all the way back up to our Indianapolis area storm, just south of there, actually, it is looking like it's dissipating, although you can kind of see little couplets of rotation, especially in this supercell right here. This is interesting, but definitely not anywhere near producing a tornado. It's kind of out ahead of the line. Let's continue to move north, check in on our Michigan system. This far north end is producing some QLCS spin-ups. It may be possible that we have a very weak tornado in this area. Primarily, again, damaging wind gusts are the main threat for that. So make sure you batten down the hatches and prepare for some very, very high damaging winds. Now, let's come back to these storms here. We are getting much more clear inflow on this Bernie storm here. We're going to want to keep a very close eye on that. Canaloo, Matthews, East Prairie, Anniston, Pinhook, and beyond, Columbus, Arlington, Bardwell, and Wyatt, y'all are all likely to get a tornado warning if this maintains its current intensity. You can kind of see a little bit of RFD coming off the back here. Oh, and if we look back down to this storm, again, these are in a absolutely terrible spot for radar. Hopefully they will move into some slightly more favorable conditions here soon so we can get a better look at them. That's where we stand as of now. Yet again, a massive hail core on that thing, likely throwing up some interference on the radar. So, nothing on the ground as we continue looking, but very soon I expect we could see a couple of new tornado warning storms, especially this one near Cave City again. Massive hailer, but nothing more than that at the moment. Tornado watch continues along with this forecast discussion. I'm located down here in the Jackson area, so we're going to be watching this closely as well. Let's see, we've got a couple more hours on the HRRR, so let's take a few steps into the future, and unsurprisingly, it looks like we'll see upscale growth into a QLCS line for this area. However, these southern storms may be briefly boosted by that, so we may see some tornadoes crossing just north of Memphis across the Mississippi River. These are likely to be very intense supercells that may produce some very large hail as well. Let's take a look at the significant tornado parameter, which is expected to peak in that area. And here's a simulated hodograph with, honestly, a very concerning look to that hodograph there. The classic M shape is known to produce some fairly significant tornadoes, although it is very conditional today. Go ahead and reload our alerts. The latest tornado warning is in Michigan. That seems to be the most active area at the moment. Not at all surprised at all. I just said at all twice. I'm great at talking. So, we're just going to continue to watch this system. We do have a new tornado warning up near Scott City, heading towards the KPAH radar. Looks like it's a kind of a bookend, but more of a bend in the QLCS system. We may have an embedded supercell in there. Looks to be that could produce a couple of spin-up tornadoes here over the next 24 minutes of the tornado warning. Nothing confirmed yet. Probably got some pretty decent hail in there, but it is wrapping up. So Commerce, get to your safe place ASAP. Is right on top of you. Pulaski, Tams, Olmsted, New Grand Chain. This thing may head a little bit north, so Tams, Ullin, and Belknap. If you are in that area, please be ready to get to your shelters or already in them, ideally. Keep looking at this southern storm. It may try and wrap up something here, especially if it gets a nudge from behind with this cell that's kind of out on its own for the moment. Cave City, yet again, still have some going on up in Michigan and unusually in the north section of the Michigan Peninsula. Got more going on there. This Heber Springs storm interests me. It's a little far from the ideal location for supercells, but it does have the potential to cause some problems. It's just not doing so at the moment. Cave City storm is still trying to get its act together. Again, it's hard to see because it's right in this middle area where we don't have any good radar coverage, which is very unfortunate because this area tends to get a lot of tornadoes, especially recently. Who do we have in this area? Austin Christopher, Rory Simon. I would bet Ryan Skull is somewhere in this area as well. Parma, you probably have a great view of this storm right now. Anyone in there is probably getting some great shots. Let me take a look at my latest social media, see if we've got any reports of anything. Not at the moment, I don't think. We're just seeing some new severe thunderstorm warnings and a tornado watch for northern Kentucky, far southeastern Indiana, and far southwestern Ohio. Yet again, no reports of anything at the moment. Columbus and Brownstown, Indiana. It looks like we could see it spin back up again. And almost had a funnel cloud touchdown in Colorado, interestingly enough. 17 minutes ago, we have a wall cloud from Jordan Hall, west of Noble, Arkansas. That is some very, very good structure on that thing. I would suggest y'all go check out his Twitter. He is posting that and keeping us updated. So given that look, I would not be surprised if we see something start and touch down from the Noble storm here. Greenway, Piggott, Holcomb, Clarton, Warden, Portageville, Hayward, all of those areas, you need to be prepared for a possible tornado here soon. Looks very, very good. Very, very strong, well-structured, lots of inflow, absolutely nothing get in the way. This could end up being a very low precipitation supercell if it does try and put something down, so we may get a very photogenic tornado from that, unfortunately heading into a fairly populated area. Nothing good on the northern storm in terms of visibility here. Looks like it may be gusting out. We may see the tornado warning dropped for that at some point. As we scan through the upper levels, it looks like rotation on that is dying out, but it's still there, so we're going to have to keep that tornado warning on it as we go closer in. This storm over Commerce is definitely wrapping up. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a touchdown. Lots of turbulent air on the spectrum width here. And yep, there's a debris signature. So we do likely have a tornado down just northeast of Commerce, headed towards Tams and Ullin. Mounds, you are going to be okay, but you're going to get some very, very nasty wind coming in on the southern end of this thing, especially from RFD. But we do have a radar confirmed tornado, which I expect we will see very, very soon from the severe weather station, storm prediction center, rather. So this is likely going to be our only confirmed tornado for a little bit until those two cells down to the south get their act together. But that is a very nasty system. That is very much an embedded supercell combination with a bookend, which is not good to see. Headed into Tams, Pulaski, Ullin, Karnak, and Belknap. This thing is kind of taking a generally northern track. Likely that we're going to see kind of a Fujiwara effect where we have a bunch of little spin-ups in this area. So if I were to track that, it's headed about vaguely in this direction. So pretty much anywhere in here, we're going to see a bunch of little spin-ups if this continues to maintain itself. Could see it go a little more north as it occludes, but this is the primary area of concern here. Again, this thing has lots of inflow and it is wrapping up very, very tight. I guarantee you we have at least a very weak tornado on the ground headed into Tams at the moment. Please take shelter if you are able and you are near Tams. Back down to the south, still not seeing anything out of the Cave City supercell. It's still got some great structure, but it's just not there for the moment. The environment that it's in at the moment is also very favorable. We just got an update on Cape, and it looks like we are just on the edge of starting to lose our instability. Just the tiniest spot of 3,000 there near that storm. It is riding the boundary of instability and not, which is going to provide some better vorticity for it. Warm fronts or cold fronts, I could be stupid. I don't actually remember what kind of front this is, but it's producing tornadoes. Let's take a look at the surface, wind barbs, and temperature. It's the cold front. Going to become crashing down through the south here, clearing out some upper 80s, near 90s temperatures in that area. Dew points as well staying extremely high for the environment, so we're going to want to keep watching that as well. Violent tornado parameter down near that southern storm, not doing much. Up near the Cave City supercell, however, we still have a very, very high violent tornado parameter headed into the boot heel head of these storms, so there is a very favorable environment for tornadoes in that area, so we're going to have to watch them very closely as they move into favorable conditions. So, low-level lapse rates aren't insane, but they are very high down in the southern area. We are probably going to see these start to drop off as the evening goes along. And the surface-based Cape is still very high in these areas. We're still seeing areas of 2,500 up into this, and this entire area up here, you see these almost directly northward, about 20 to 30 knots of inflow on these storms, as well as plenty of moisture and instability. So, given that we have a lot of that instability, we're probably going to see upscale growth into QLCS as usual. But it may hold off on that for a little bit longer, and if it does, these supercells have very, very good tornado producing potential. You can see that, like, this entire warm sector here is just open. We see a little bit of convective banding in there as well. So this is all just absolutely feeding these storms, and we have a PDS tornado warning up near the Scott system. Oh my goodness, that is a lot of velocity headed straight into Tams. This is a significant tornado situation. Still seeing the debris signature has fallen off a little bit, but it's likely to touch back down again with that kind of velocity. It just hasn't made it to the ground yet. This is indeed a PDS tornado warning. So if you are in Pulaski, if you are in Tams, New Grand Chain, Olmsted, and Karnak, you need to be taking shelter right now. You have less than 5 minutes if you're in Tams and Pulaski. You have about 10, or you have less than 10 minutes in New Grand Chain and Ulan. Oh, this is a nasty situation. Look at this thing wrap up just out of nowhere. Good call on the Storm Prediction Center for calling this out. Very brief tornado debris signature. Seeing some stuff kicked out up ahead of it as well, but Pulaski and Tams, this is a PDS tornado warning. This is a very serious situation. Destructive tornado is headed into this area. Please take shelter now. This is likely on the ground as of this moment, and we're just not seeing it on the scan yet. That is some nasty velocity there. Hopefully this will not be a long track tornado, but it is going to be very intense for the period that it is on the ground. Back up near the Columbus storm in Indiana, we are also seeing this tornado warning continue. Lots of little velocity couplets in there. Some spin-up QLCS tornadoes similar to the PDS one down there possible. All tornado warnings for Michigan have been canceled, so we're going to bring our focus to continue down here in Arkansas. I want to keep watching these. These things have the potential to produce a tornado at any point. And we have this one that is just an absolute monstrosity. The environment up there is not incredibly favorable, but it is riding the ridges between some cape there as well. Got some mixed layer cape up in that area, and the wind shear as well is very favorable. Again, we see things ride very edges of favorable environments pretty often. Violent tornado parameter is spiked up a little in that area, so we are I'm not at all surprised seeing that form up there as we get closer in. So, gonna keep watching this.
I just don't like having my hair in my eyes.
Just pulled up a Twitch stream by accident. Don't need that. All right. All right, we're gonna keep watching this thing. That is some violent rotation in there. Again, this is kind of a bookend vortex situation with a bit of an embedded supercell shape. This is probably not the last area of rotation that we're going to see from this as it continues to push through the environment and just spin up some tornadoes to the south. Moving into South Tams at the moment and Pulaski directly afterwards. And then ahead to Ulan, New Grand Chain, Karnak, Belknap, and further. Right. Continue watching this as it moves in. Gonna update everything because I can't make it do it automatically, unfortunately. As that continues to move into Pulaski and New Grand Chain, it is definitely producing something in there. This is indeed a PDS tornado warning continuing for this area. And back down to the south, tornado warnings continue for all of these cells. Now, the one up near Matthews is starting to get its inflow choked off by this storm to its south. I expect we will probably see this tornado warning canceled here fairly soon, but it does have a significant amount of inflow. So it still has tornado potential, but yet we are still just down to a radar indicated, and it is probably losing steam. Energy is starting to move down south of this system. So I would expect this Cave City supercell to be potentially our next tornado producer if it does want to. It's still not rotating yet, but I could be wrong. I think these storms down to the south may serve as a merger later on if they can catch up. If these are able to interact with the Cave City storm up here, they may in fact produce a tornado of their own accord. This is what we call a nudger or a merger, depends on who you ask. I know they're two different things, but don't quite know the exact semantics between them. When is this stuff hitting us? You're probably going to get it like early tomorrow morning into the mid-morning down in Huntsville. It's not going to be that extreme. We don't have that much of a concern for that area. If we go to the Storm Prediction Center, we can take a look. Huntsville is included in the enhanced risk, but the storms will likely have burned themselves out, and you may see a spin up or two, but aside from that, it's primarily going to be a damaging wind threat. Hail's not much of a concern either. It's just going to be a big line of storms that absolutely blasts through very, very, very early tomorrow or potentially mid-morning. Back to our surface analysis. Cape is still high in that area. We'll see that update here fairly soon. Latest HRRR run is finishing up, so we'll go ahead and take a look at that. As these storms go through the rest of the day, we're going to see them grow into a big line and pretty much burn themselves out by the time they get south of the Tennessee border or east of Nashville. We still could see some fairly significant hail and wind potential. If we take a sounding right around 2Z tonight, that's going to be around like 9 or 8, if I remember correctly. We still have a very significant tornado-producing environment. We're going to want to keep watching that as it moves through the Boot Heel and into western Tennessee. Memphis, definitely want to keep an eye on that. We're going to keep watching this tornado, PDS tornado warning up as it moves through Tams. That is a very significant signature. Now, what's happening is kind of called the Fujiwara effect, and we are looking at as it kind of rotates, it drops multiple areas of tight velocity couplets. So this one back here is the previous tornado that we saw, and it looks like we will likely have a new one here and potentially here as well. These kind of systems tend to just drop multiple tornadoes over a large area. So New Grand Chain, you are going to need to be in your safe place. Ulen, you are not totally safe either. Karnak, Olmsted, and beyond with Belknap and even Golconda, Carrollsville, Rosiclare, and Elizabethtown, y'all need to be prepared to deal with this if it decides to be a long track system. Back up in Indiana, as we keep looking at this, as this storm moves through Columbus, very weak rotation, but still a tornado possibility. This is still a QLCS system up this way, which is what most of this down south is also probably going to be here fairly soon. Now, the storm headed towards Piggott is still definitely producing some rotation. I would not be surprised if we have a tornado on the ground as of this moment. That is a very impressive supercell structure on that. We are starting to see these storms move into the right turn area as the photograph, instead of looking kind of like this, is now going to start looking more like this. Oh. So you can kind of see it following that hodograph shape as it moves in. Everybody say hi to the wife. Say hi, Evan.
Where's the camera?
Right there. So I'm going to want to keep watching this. As these all take a right turn, they have a tendency to want to produce tornadoes in the room as well. No, he can be in here as long as he doesn't walk in front of the camera like usual. Hi, Edmund. He likes to complain. Greenway, Piggott, Holcomb, Nimmons, and beyond that, Wardle, Portageville, Clarkton. This thing's going to be moving into your area soon. Let's see if we have any new reports from Jordan Hall. Nothing beyond that one shot of the wall cloud moving in. Not looking like we're going to see anything for the moment. I'm going to keep scrolling through. Golf ball sized hail out in Arkansas. But not seeing much else at the moment. Potential funnel cloud 3 minutes ago, or rather about 10 minutes ago, from again this Piggott storm. This is our tornado producer right now. Even though it's really, really hard to see because of the location of the radar, this is our primary threat for the moment. So everywhere ahead of that, you need to be in your safe place ASAP. This is indeed a dangerous tornado producer, and it could likely touch down at any moment. Piggott and Greenway, Holcomb, primary area of concern for the moment. We can kind of scan through different radars and see that this is in about the same place. We're not seeing much radar location bias. Absolutely beautiful inflow notch on this thing. As again, we can see that hodograph profile start to take shape as we're seeing kind of this curve here through the upper levels. Now, what I'm talking about is if we were to jump back to the latest HRRR, if we kind of scan this area and pull up a hodograph, you can kind of see that we have that elongated sort of an M shape. The low-level jet is not strong right now, which is limiting these things' tornado potential. As we move into the evening, though, that is likely to strengthen as instability dies down, so there will be kind of a brief period of favorability for these storms to produce some more tornadoes later on. As we get more low-level surface flow and this becomes more of a stretched-out storm, this is streamwise vorticity. We have very straight inflow winds headed into these storms. So we're going to need to keep a very, very close eye on those as the low-level jet starts to pick up, which is the lowest area of wind flow. So as of 0Z, or about 6 p.m., which is a few minutes ago, or that could be 7. Let me double check, actually, if I'm doing my conversions right. Yeah, okay, so that's 7 o'clock. So in about 30 minutes, we will see storms start to look like this. And again, we don't have that much of a low-level jet, which is limiting these storms' low-level tornado potential. However, if we fast forward to 3 Zulu, about 10 o'clock tonight, we are going to see a much more elongated low-level hodograph, which is going to produce a much more favorable environment for tornadoes shear-wise as it gusts out into a QLCS system as it moves through our area. So we will need to continue watching this. Yeah, this is probably going to be a significant tornado producer if it can hold on to some surface inflow. Back up to the PDS tornado warning, it has been downgraded very, very slightly to a radar indicated tornado warning. This area of rotation is falling apart now. This is kind of what we see with bookend vortexes. They are able to produce tornadoes for a short period of time, pretty much simply by shear, not so much by a supercell structure. So it's not likely we will see another significant tornado out of this for the moment. But that cannot be ruled out because it was able to near the Tams area. I guarantee you we had a tornado on the ground. So Karnak, Belknap, New Grand Chain, you're getting slammed right now. Golconada, Elizabethtown, Rosiclare, Carsville. This is all going to be headed towards you here fairly soon. You're pretty much about to be included in the tornado warning. So keep an eye on that. And here with the Matthew storm, we are seeing a much more, with that storm coming in from the back end, we're seeing a pretty significant nudger starting to push this thing forward and potentially produce a tornado in the near future. Very strong rotation, and as we scan through the upper levels, this rotation continues, and maybe even stronger on a higher level. This is a powerful supercell capable of producing a tornado here soon. Matthews, need to be in your safe place. East Prairie, Anniston. Beyond that, as it crosses the river, we've also got Bardwell and Blandville, Wycliffe, if this includes North, Massac, and Woodland Oak, Reedland. Arlington and Columbus, you are also not out of danger. This is probably headed towards you as well. Mayfield, if this thing takes a hard right turn, Mayfield could be in the sights. We unfortunately know that town's name from a while ago from a significant tornado that went through that area. So please keep a close look on this because this is a very scary look with the photograph here. That is a classic tornado producer. Would not be surprised to see something on the ground here very, very soon. All right, we have a new tornado warning down south. And that's interesting. I wonder if my radar data is behind. Radar Scope has been having issues keeping up. That may be happening right now. I'm going to go ahead and reboot it and see what we can do. Yeah, it's looking like our tornado data, radar data here may be a little behind, which is worrying because there are a lot of people that rely on this. As of whenever this was actually updated, we were starting to see that photograph take shape as it is starting to spin up. But guessing by the location of this warning, I would say the radar data is a little bit behind, so please keep an eye on that. But the other radar stations seem to be okay. You need me to open it? Mm-hmm. You're welcome. There you go. Careful, it's dripping. All right, PDS tornado warning has expired up north here for this storm. Does not mean we're out of danger yet. This is still a possible tornado producer, so please take this seriously. Be in your safe place if you are anywhere within the warning. We are starting to see that low-level jet ramp up. Now, I am 100% sure that our radar data is behind at this point because there is no way that this tornado warning would have been put out that far ahead of the storm and not on top of it. Tornado and 2-inch hail, and this is has potential to be a rain wrap tornado. Unfortunately, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pull up WeatherWise and see where their data is at for the moment. So checking in on WeatherWise with Arkansas system here. Pardon me. Let me make sure I have the warnings visible. Here we are. Well, now I'm even more confused. We may have a radar provider that is completely behind at the moment. I've never seen a tornado warning this far out in front of a storm. See if anybody else is noticing this. If I look on another device, we're seeing the same thing, and it looks like this stuff is really far behind. I guarantee you there's a storm moving into Piggott right now. Probably a tornado. That is an insane signature right now. Let's take a look at this real quick. Up in the Piggott storm, or Piggot, I'm assuming it's Piggott because there are two T's, we are seeing a major RFD surge come off of this thing. This is, again, a classic supercell shape as it is wrapping up into itself and occluding north. And if we scan up through the levels, we can kind of see the edge of the rotation there. There is likely a photogenic tornado on the ground right there. We have kind of a BWER, or bounded weak echo region, showing very strong updraft in the middle of this storm. And if you look at these supercell shape here, these extremely straight lines, we've got strong inflow headed up into this area. I guarantee you that there is a tornado somewhere in there headed into Piggott. Then to Holcomb, it may occlude up towards the Campbell or St. Francis area, but that's unlikely. So Clarkton and Gideon, y'all are up next for this one. Please be in your safe place. Expect a new tornado warning to drop out of this here soon. Again, we may be completely wrong with the radar data because I do think it is still behind. I need to read this tornado warning. I'm wondering if they put it out ahead of time near Strawberry Park. Well, that seems to be, well, that's 11 miles. So, assuming this is well ahead of where it was before, we're starting to see the beginning of a hook echo there, headed into the Jonesboro area. Make a post. So, we gotta keep watching this. We have a new tornado warning up near Oak Grove Heights. Delaplane, Marmaduke, Lafay, Paragould, headed into Seneth and Cardwell afterwards. Got a whole bunch of chasers likely headed south to this one as well. It is getting very intense. We are seeing tornado warnings all over the place. This system up near Indianapolis is still going as well. We have a very, very well-defined little hook echo there on this QLCF system. Again, not super strong rotation, but it is very present, so there's likely a few spin-up tornadoes coming out of that. Please be in your shelter and your safe place if you are in Westport. Millhausen, Batesville, New Point, Oldenburg, and Sunman. Prepare for a tornado warning as well if you're not already in one. Things are getting dicey in this area. Unfortunately, we do not have good radar coverage for these particular storms. We need a radar station somewhere near in the Boot Heel or in northeast Arkansas because it is ridiculous that we can't see this very well. Swifton, it looks like, may have been very close to this. But it is really hard to tell because our radar data is not agreeing with where these warnings are. Again, unfortunately, weather-wise is showing the same thing. I was hoping they would be more up to date, but it looks like a universal radar provider may be down. Holy, we've got something going on down south here. Take a look at this. From the Little Rock radar, this storm now near Pleasant Plains may be about to produce a tornado if it can get enough energy. Currently moving in a generally east by northeast, pretty much just straight east at this point, direction. So Amagon, Waldenburg, and Fisher, this is headed towards you. Newport, you are probably not going to be in the sights of this thing. You may get some wind off the north end, but I wouldn't be surprised. We should see, assuming that radar data is correct, that this storm here is headed this general direction. So again, Amagon and Fisher, we are probably going to see a tornado warning look something like this here soon. This is a very well-shaped storm and a very healthy supercell. Let's bring it back down to ground level, and we are definitely still seeing that inflow notch and that rotation there. It's not a beefy supercell, but it could produce something here very soon. And well, according to what everyone is saying, National Weather Service put out a warning very far ahead of the storm, and our radar data is accurate. So this is what we're looking at right now. I assume that I guess that they think there's enough of a tornado producing environment that this storm is right about to move into that it may produce a tornado warning. This also could have been a mistake, but I highly doubt it. That is very strange. I have never seen that before. Interesting. That is very, very interesting. Seeing some more discussion on it, and nobody quite knows what's going on. Yep, no, everybody is seeing the same thing. Very strange. I've never personally seen that before. Let's take an overview look. We currently have 5 tornado warnings down near the boot heel, and we have 1 still going on in Indiana. Most of the tornado potential seems to have ended in Michigan, so y'all should be just about all clear except for damaging winds. Again, very high-end damaging winds. And Gabe Garfield just chimed in on this southern supercell as well. I also agree this thing is making its right turn, and if it is able to get a bit more juice, I would expect we're going to see a tornado warning here very soon for this one. Not much happening on any of the other radar levels for the moment, but once it continues to grow, probably going to see that. I am very interested to see what happens with the Jonesboro storm here, because this is the weirdest tornado warning I think I've ever seen. Oak Grove Heights and Marmaduke, again, you have another storm moving into your area. Pretty much everything is tornado warned at this point. Down in the south end, everything is spinning, which is kind of what we expected to see. There's some very well-defined rotation here in by Matthews, headed towards East Prairie and Anniston. Check the storm's direction here, because these things are turning right. And it looks like, yep, it is making just a bit of a right wobble. So current storm motion, unless it occludes, is looking right about in this general direction here. So Pinhook, East Prairie, you need to be in your shelters now. Columbus, this is probably going to come at you, as well as Arlington. So please be prepared to shelter This is capable of producing a tornado right now. We do not have a confirmed warning, just radar indicated, but it is showing very, very good tornado potential at the moment. This storm up in Piggott also has my attention. It looks fantastic, although we are kind of starting to see that detached RFD, little bit of a hook that's kind of behind the rest, ahead of the back end of the storm. So this may be gusting out, which is why they haven't extended the tornado warning yet. But I would take that with a grain of salt, because these things are doing all sorts of crazy things today. So very, very, very much keep an eye on it. We have very strong rotation up in the Delaplane area, headed towards Lafayette, Oak Grove Heights, Marmaduke. Again, y'all are all in the sights of this thing. And as we keep checking in on the Jonesboro storm, it still hasn't even reached its warning area yet and doesn't seem to be presenting that much of a tornado threat for the moment. This really just looks like a hailer, which adds to the mystery. I don't know how my chat box got up there. What a mystery. There's a little bit of area of turbulence in here, and we can see that remaining supercell structure still in there. It's about to get cut off, so I don't think it'll do much past this point, but it has very strong tornado potential right at this moment. Again, headed for East Prairie. Anniston as well, you are in the sights of this thing, North Pinhook, or maybe all of Pinhook, depending on what kind of movement this thing decides to take. Please keep a very close eye on that. Be in your shelters. Keep track of it as well as you can through live streams and through the radar. And I am just utterly confused with this tornado warning that is still up and has not been updated, with no real significant rotation to speak of except in the upper levels. So something may be going on with the storm. We may see something form up here soon, but as of now, lower levels look like absolute crap. Upper levels, however, do not, so very much want to keep a close eye on this. A lot of chasers in Jonesboro, hopefully getting good shots of this thing and reporting any wall clouds. Let's check back in on this southern supercell, which is kind of showing, we're starting to see that classic kind of flying eagle, soaring eagle shape where you have the wings shooting out here. We are again seeing that photograph shape where we have a very short little hook here, and then it kind of bends off, and we also have some upper levels crossing, blowing it out that way. Let's take a look back at our environment, if we've gotten an update yet. We haven't. Violent tornado parameter, again, very high up near these storms, so these are very much the big threat at the moment. These could also be a problem as they are still well within a favorable area for development. Surface-based Cape, still probably around somewhere around 3,000, 2,000. Significant tornado parameter is peaking ahead of those storms right into the area that they're moving into. So this kind of burst in tornado activity is not all that unexpected. This one is still a supercell. It's trying to do something, but not successfully, it doesn't look like. However, this storm near Peach Orchard, this one I would say is probably our best shot of a tornado producer at the moment. Looks like it's got some good clean inflow, got a little bit of a hail ball down there, so this is probably a rain wrap tornado as well, which is kind of unfortunate because those are very hard to see. Checking back in on people posting here. Not seeing much. Let's continue to look at this. Malden, Missouri is getting some pretty good views at the moment. But as of now, it doesn't seem to be anything particularly favorable for the moment. I am still interested to see what this storm does as it moves into the warning area. I have never seen that before. I've not known the SPC to pre-warn things, but I guess there's a time for everything. The storm up near Holcomb looks like it is still probably gusting out. Tornado warning is still attached, but it is not been extended yet. So if it does, it'll be extended in the next 5 minutes, most likely. But if it does not, that is probably going to be it for that storm for the day. It is starting to get cut off. Now this one up near East Prairie is giving its best shot. We're not seeing a debris signature in there yet, but we are still seeing some pretty significant turbulence. Very strong supercell shape there as well. So definitely want to keep watching that. Take another look at the HRRR. Now, for this hour 2, let's go ahead and check what the trend has been. Significant tornado parameter for this moment has generally kind of stayed the same. I would say it's also potentially downtrended. Let's check 22Z. 22Z is uptrended, that's for sure, but it also hasn't gone much beyond what it initially uptrended to. Forecasted surface-based CAPE also stayed about the same, so kudos to the models for that. We are going to look at some pockets of higher instability still forming up in here, and that's an interesting little hook in the line. We may have to watch that area. So plenty of instability for these storms to feed off of. That is certainly not an issue at the moment. We look at the 0 to 3, we've got 3 CAPE, plenty of that still in the area as well. Our updraft helicity tracks are showing some potential tornado activity in Kentucky. Unfortunately, that's near the Mayfield area, I believe. But we're not seeing anything crazy for the rest of the night as this transitions into a QLCS system. That's where we're sitting right now. Tornado warning continues up near Cincinnati. Heading just north of that area, actually, with this kind of just interesting mixed up QLCS section of the storm. Again, not a lot of defined rotation, but this entire area is capable of producing tornadoes. Also have a bit of an area of interest up here near Connorsville. That could produce something here soon if they warn it. Seeing people also trying to call for potentially storm of the day down here. This thing is out all by itself. It has all the inflow, all the moisture, all the shear. If the low-level jet kicks in, this will be the first one to know about it. And Brad Arnold is actually down on that one. Kudos to him. That is a rare find there. Let's see what's being posted about it. See if he's mentioned anything. We are definitely going to want to watch this one. This one could be fairly significant if it can get itself off the ground. Taking a look at Brad Arnold's stream, and there is Rising Scud and a Wall Cloud on this thing. It is very, very much trying to produce something right at this moment. Nothing crazy in the area of rotation, but this is the storm to watch. We will probably see a tornado warning here in the next 15 minutes or so, if I had to guess. That said, the wall cloud on it is well defined, but it's very small and it's kind of scattered. So we are not necessarily going to see a tornado right as of this moment, but the wall cloud is there. It is definitely trying to produce something. It is definitely tornadic. But if anything happens, it will be a couple minutes before it does. This thing looks very, very interesting. Could also see a handoff ongoing as well as the old wall cloud is dying out. But we're going to need to keep a very, very close eye on this one. This is in prime tornado territory for the moment. Checking back in on our Jonesboro storm, not much has changed. There is some very, very broad rotation in there, but nothing tornadic at the moment. These storms are all just kind of getting in each other's way at the moment. They're choking each other's inflow off. The East Prairie storm looks like it is probably going to gust out, but we could see some more development here soon if it really, really wants to. East Prairie, Anniston, please still be in your safe places. You are not safe yet. This is not a confirmed tornado, but it has very strong rotation, so it still has good potential to produce. And this is just not a good place radar-wise to look at these things. Lafayette storm, rotation is there, but it's transitioning to a QLCS. It doesn't look like it wants to produce anything at the moment, which is a good sign. Now, something to note, down back on this absolutely beautiful southern supercell, it is very low precipitation, so we could see something try and spin up that we're not going to see super well on radar for a minute. Very elevated look on the storm at the moment, so it's not trying to put anything down. But as it continues to move in, Amagon, Waldenburg, potentially Grubbs, but most likely Waldenburg and Wiener, very much be prepared for this storm as it moves into your area. This could go tornadic very quickly. But as of now, I would not be surprised if we start to see this entire system slow down a little bit as we lose some of that available potential energy back up in the Indiana, Columbus area, Cincinnati. This thing is still trying to produce. The tornado warning still continues. Likely very damaging winds in there, high winds. Currently warned for 60 mile an hour with 1-inch hail. Could see gusts slightly above that, but it's unlikely that we do. This remains our primary area of concern. There's definitely some inflow and rotation on this storm near Bradford. Nothing crazy, though. I don't think we're going to see anything quite yet. It is transitioning as it impacts this line, and, well, all right, here we go. National Weather Service may have been on top of it, seeing into the future. We've got some very strong rotations starting to develop in a positively tilted area of broad rotation, and it is probably going to wrap up here soon. Bono, Jonesboro, Brooklyn, this thing is headed for you right now. Large hail and potentially a tornado here very soon. Yeah, we're seeing turbulence in the inflow. Very broad area of rotation continuing as we check the upper levels. The upper levels are there. The rotation is there. They haven't quite caught up yet, but they are there. So, everyone who's been waiting in Jonesboro may have been in the right spot if this thing decides to produce soon. However, that being said, if it does produce soon, this could be a very strongly rain-wrapped tornado, which is not ideal at all. Go ahead and check all of our other windows here. We are now up to a total of total of 4 kind of confirmed tornado incidents. Now, I'm not quite sure what's going on down here with this southern banding that's going on. This may be feeding into the inflow of the storm. It's very strange, though, because the rotation is centered up over near Egypt, just northeast of town, but this inflow is way down south here. But that is definitely tornadic now. That is absolutely a tornadic storm moving into the warning area, kind of in a generally southeastern direction, so it's headed right for Jonesboro. Very large hail continuing. Got 1 inch hail reported on this thing. Headed into Bono. Bono, you need to be in your safe place ASAP, and then northwest Jonesboro, all of Jonesboro for the most part, then on to Lake City, Caraway, or potentially Bay if this takes an even further southeast turn. Back down in this little supercell, and it just can't get the push that it needs to quite be dangerous for the moment, but we'll keep an eye on that. It's getting caught by the front, so when it does, we could see a very strong burst of tornadic activity with that thing. Got power lines torn off poles, which that is honestly new. This is likely a very high-end, gusty storm system coming through here. Rotation is continuing to gust out. Not much of concern there. I would not be surprised if the Storm Prediction Center allows the warning to expire. Multiple tornado warnings have expired up here. We're now down to these 2 near Jonesboro. As it kind of goes, energy tends to move south down the line as the storm system progresses, and this thing's continuing to look more and more nasty by the minute. Very, very strong turbulence in the upper levels of this storm, as well as heavy rotation. So it is moving into the outer Jonesboro area. Now, if we take a quick look, let's take a gander at the surface analysis, see if we've gotten an update yet. And we have. As expected, Cape is starting to drop for this area. I could be wrong, it may not have updated. But if we continue to check back in on the violent tornado parameter and the significant tornado parameter, again, ahead of these storms, there is still a favorable environment, so those are going to need to be watched, and a little bit up in Ohio, so we may see some more QLCS action up that way if it is able to maintain itself. Now, as this tracks into Jonesboro, this is one of the larger cities in this area here. This is a highly populated area, so I am hoping we don't see anything happen here soon as this moves into the suburbs and kind of the northern section, northern shopping area. Is honestly fairly concerning if this thing is able to drop a tornado. It may miss Jonesboro, but that right turn is here. And it has begun. So let's keep watching the direction on this. Looks like it may stay north. Here's hoping of Jonesboro. It may head into the Brookland area. However, Jonesboro being continually a very populated area, yeah, that's headed into Brookland. Take a quick guesstimate as to where this is going. Looks like we're gonna see probably something right in this area. It is just down out here in open fields, but as it moves just to the south of Bono, once it's right here, it is just going to be starting to move into populated areas. There's a little bit down here. There's some neighborhoods. And then it's going to progress towards the Sage Meadows Country Club, and then over to 49, New Moon Venue, Dog Empire, all of these places if you know of them, and then Southern Brookland. And then after that, it's back out into Fields and headed towards Leicester and the town of Monette over that way. Philadelphia area, you are under the direct targets of this thing, and again, the country club, along with its associated neighborhoods, all directly ahead of this thing. So this is, if it decides to produce a tornado, this is in a very bad spot for the people of this area. Again, moving into South Bono, anywhere ahead of this, you need to be getting in shelter. Brooklyn, North Jonesboro, Monette, you are directly in the sights of this thing. It's coming for you. If it decides to touch down, it'll be in these areas. Looking up north, this tornado warning, I would put money on it, is going to be allowed to expire. Storm does not look at all impressive in that area whatsoever. Up near Holcomb, there's definitely still rotation on this storm. Still a potential for a tornado. East Prairie area, the original storm I don't think is capable of producing a tornado, but this southern one, we may be seeing a bit of a mesocyclone handoff. So Columbus, you need to be prepared for this thing as it moves into your area. Arlington and Columbus. Who is this chaser out here? Christopher Pace. Don't know him. Yeah, Columbus, Arlington, and Bardwell, please be prepared to get in your safe place. They may issue a new tornado warning for this one down to the south if we keep scanning through the upper levels. Not well defined, but there is rotation starting to develop in that area, so please keep very close tabs on that. Going back down south to Jonesboro, because this is the story of the night right now. Still very strong rotation. Haven't seen an update that convinces me we're seeing a tornado at the moment, but it is getting its act together. It's got clean inflow. It's got mergers coming in. So, yeah, we could see something spin up on this here soon. This could be a very dangerous situation if it decides to touch down just south of Bono. Headed towards this area here. Again, that is kind of the northern Philadelphia area. There's a Dollar General up there, New Moon Venue, right near this chink in the road is kind of the direction it's heading. Everywhere in here needs to be prepared, especially Brooklyn. You are directly, excuse me, in the sights of this thing. And the country club specifically as well. All right, we have a new tornado warning. They have caught up to this thing, still radar indicated. Almost 2-inch hail, so this thing is destructive, tornado or not, for the moment. But that inflow notch is there, the rotation is there. Once we get an update on velocity, we'll have a better picture into this thing. Plenty of shear in that area. That's probably what's boosting this thing. And it is on the southern end of the last update for the violent tornado parameter. Haven't seen much, but I would expect to see that continue and this stuff start to burn out. Clarksville, you may need to watch out for this thing as it moves into your area. There is some very favorable tornado environment, kind of in this upper little tiny boot heel of West Clarksville area. So please stay tuned. Keep an eye on that. Our southern little supercell here still hasn't decided to do anything, and it may not do anything. It looks like it's starting to lose its juice. But this is the story. Just moving south of Bono now. No tornado debris signature, but it's looking very, very well structured on spectrum width and velocity. So we're going to want to keep a very close eye on that. Storm to the north is moving out of its original area, so not expecting to see much more on that. If we check further up north, I think this one is probably done. East Prairie Storm may produce something to the south near Clinton or Arlington if it gets its act together, but right now there's not much to be concerned about with that storm for the moment. Clarkton Storm is still possibly capable of producing a tornado. Looks a little disorganized on velocity, but there is definitely a supercell in there. It is transitioning from kind of the old mode to this new elongated hodograph as the wind shear is starting to hit. Let's keep an eye on this though. This is indeed the big storm for the moment. There's lots and lots of mergers coming from the south of this thing. As little tiny cells are popping up and getting fed into it. See if we have any reports from that area. Looks like we have a very, very well structured supercell from what I am seeing headed into that area. However, velocity is dying down a little bit, so it may be gusting out. Very strong rotation, at least there for a little bit. It is not quite as strong for the moment, so nothing particularly to be worried about. Jeff Piotrowski is live in that area, as well as a number of other chasers. This area is very, very populated, and we could see a handoff happen to the south here. This hook here is interesting. I believe it's just a coincidence with storms popping up in that area, but you can kind of see a little bend here. This could hook off of the previous one's RFD and produce near South Jonesboro, although I would be surprised if that happened at the moment. We are down to 3 situations, tornado situations for the moment. So, very, very slowly, let's fix our graphic here because it's deciding to not function for the moment. Doing this all for free. All for free. Further up near Cincinnati, I would expect this is being allowed to expire. This system does not look conducive to producing tornadoes at all anymore. Michigan, you are still in the clear. So, yet again, we come back down south of Memphis. It is. We might be able to see these storms from where I'm at right now. Jonesboro cell is looking nasty, but it's not looking very favorable for tornado development for the moment. I don't think it's going to produce anything, at least not that northern mesocyclone, unless it gets its act together here soon. Southern one, though, we could see more happen on the southern flank of this storm. And we also still have this little guy down here just trying his best. Not able to do much, but there's still some potential there. I don't think we're going to see much out of it, though. Yeah, so we're starting to see kind of this double bowing here with the Jonesboro cell. Original rotation is up there, but it is starting to move south, and I, again, would not be surprised if these mergers here are able to influence some more tornado development down to the south, but don't take my word for it. As of now, no tornado on the ground, at least not confirmed. So we are calming down, at least for the moment. So, that said, we're going to move down to some fairly calm conditions in terms of a tornado outbreak, of course. Hard to tell what this thing's going to do. I don't think this northern one is capable of producing a tornado anymore. But we could see a handoff. It could try to do something. Still a severe warning on this little guy back here near Newport. That's hard to say. Not much else than that. No tornado warnings anywhere else at the moment. Jacksonville, Texas does have a neat little storm next to it from what I've seen. Large hailer, tiny bit of rotation, not a tornado threat at the moment, not anywhere near organized enough for that. But we are likely going to see these storms transition into kind of a QLCS semi-quasi-linear system as it moves towards the Mississippi River. We could see tornado potential increase at that point again once it's done transitioning as the low-level jet kicks in. That's where we're at for the moment. Nothing crazy or wild. We have a new run of the HRRR to check out here, which is kind of downtrending just a little bit more each time, which you always love to see. Kind of expecting a massive hailer, looks like, with the Jonesboro storm. It may maintain some energy and stay somewhat discreet, actually, as they move across the river, but we're going to have to keep very close tabs on that. Very well initialized. You can see that tiny supercell down to the south of everything. Then you've got the Jonesboro storm and the previous one, which has died out up there. Very large hailer, again. Now, I'm interested to see what this little thing does when it attaches itself to the line here, because as it collides, that could produce enough vorticity for it to actually wrap up and not just be this kind of elongated mess as it is now. Likely not enough low-level shear to keep this thing going, but we do have a wall cloud reported on it. Not all surprised on a day like this that we see that with a little storm. Not necessarily a particularly tornadic wall cloud, but it does signal that this thing is still capable of producing something. We're just going to have to keep a very close eye on it. I know I've said that 1,000 times, but that's kind of what we're doing right now, is just watching. Upper levels definitely show some rotation, although that could be... Alright, well, you know what? Let's take a deeper look at this. We may see... Don't quote me on this. We may see a new hook form here. And this could be it interacting with a boundary that is going to produce some favorable vorticity on this storm. Because, I mean, if we look at the upper levels, that could be side lobe. It likely will be side lobe contamination, but there's enough there suggesting that this thing may break out into a new hook echo here very soon. Jonesboro storm is just a giant supercell right now. Not particularly tornadic, although the warning continues and may be allowed to expire if this continues on the current track that it is on. Down near Cache, we could see something form up, but right now this just looks like a hailer in a windbag. Yeah, I think we're starting to see it. Notice that we've kind of got this little bean shape going on here. This is showing that this storm may be ramping itself up for some potential supercell development here. We can, again, you can see that that kind of elongated M shape here. Got this going on, and then it curves back up a little bit and comes down. As that storm gets higher and progresses through the upper levels, you can kind of just see the shape of it stretch out that way as it goes. If we have any environment updates yet. Like we do. All right, surface base CAPE is down to 2,000 in this area. We are losing storm fuel very quickly, which is fortunate for all the residents here. Violent tornado parameter is still pretty high for all of these storms. So down in these southern cells, I wouldn't be surprised if we see something here soon. Watch that tiny southern cell. I think it's going to do something if it can get just the right environment to do something. Significant tornado parameter persists over northwest Tennessee as this thing approaches the Mississippi River. These are right on the tail end of it, and they are starting to be outpaced by favorable conditions and may not move into them in time. But I think the HRRR is showing that that little southern cell may merge with this one and produce a potential another tornadic cell. Yeah, there's that hodograph there. As of model initiation, again, you can see that M shape. If you keep that in your head, as we pop back over, you can just see it getting all stretched out in here. We kind of have that little hook down. And if you keep that shape in your mind, exactly what we have there. This is how hodographs work. You can see it in the storm shape. Yeah, another giant supercell up here, not particularly tornadic or concerning for the moment. This northern bookend type thing could be of some concern, so we'll want to keep watching that if it manages to wrap all the way around. But right now, this is a big gust front. This is a big wind bag. Probably has 60, 70 mile an hour wind gusts. Interesting. Warnings have just been all over the place today. Ping pong ball sized hail, 60 mile an hour wind gusts. Not at all surprised. This southern gust front is looking pretty nasty for that sort of thing. All right, so this is what we're watching for here. I had a seizure there for a second. We may be seeing this thing interact with these storms here as it continues to move north, and I wouldn't be surprised if that produces at least a tornado warning, if not an actual tornado. You can just see it try and try and try. And now it's developing kind of that new hook as the back end of the storm gets left behind. It's moving east, and the rest of this gust front is crashing south. So near Waldenburg and Harrisburg, we may see some favorable storm interactions here that may spin this thing back up. So let's keep a very close watch on that as we go in. And you can kind of trace where the embedded supercell is in this thing now. We've got two of them. We've got this one kind of doing its own thing here, where we have that hodograph kind of stretched out. Then down on the southern end, we have this one forming up, where we also have that, and then it's curved out here. So we are seeing the wind profile shift, which is probably disrupting these things and is likely the cause of the drop, as well as the drop in instability that we're seeing. These northern cells, I don't think have much juice left. This does have some rotation. It's got an inflow notch. Not tornadic at the moment. Despite the warning, it's moving south out of the warning towards Portageville. That could potentially be a tornado that we see here very, very soon. There's definitely a little bit of rotation in there. Portageville, you might want to be careful with this one. Tornado warning is for your area, so please be in your safe place. Hayward, some of y'all may not be in this tornado warning, but watch out for it. Bessie, especially, if this thing is able to get anything together and produce a tornado, it will do so up near your area and North Portageville. Not seeing any sort of a debris signature on it, thank goodness. But it's very messy in there. It's very hard to tell. And it's coming into a favorable environment. So let's watch this as it moves near Portageville. Lots of chasers on this one as well. So if anything happens, we'll know about it. Back down south, Jonesboro. Lots, still very large, broad rotation on this thing. Not likely to produce a tornado quite yet. If it gets its act together, it might, as usual. But man, we're just seeing more of this absolutely classic hodograph presentation with this cell here. We kind of got a little chink in it, and then it curves down. Yeah, you can see it just perfectly there. As these move forward, we expect to see the low-level jet increase. It always does at night. And we still have PDS tornado soundings as it crosses the Mississippi River. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I will probably not be streaming at that point because that's going to be pretty late tonight. These are probably going to be big hailers and damaging wind, although there is still a very favorable possibility for tornado development embedded within the line. Energy helicity index is expected to strengthen rapidly in this area as they move in. It's part of the reason, because again, that low-level jet is strengthening. Take a look at the forecasted surface wind barbs and the low-level wind. Not seeing much there. It may potentially die off as well. Temperature will continue dropping, especially as this line moves through. Low-level jet may strengthen briefly and then die out as it just absolutely blasts through this area. Secondary cold front coming behind it, too. Well, let's dig back into the surface analysis for this. Plenty of instability down south. These storms are probably not going to take advantage of it. They're going to continue riding this boundary. We don't have enough forcing for any discrete supercells ahead of it, so that is a relief, because if we were to get anything in this area, it would have a very high chance of possibly producing a tornado. Violent tornado parameter still out in front of these storms here, headed towards Clarksville area. Please be careful as these storms all collide and interact with each other. We are seeing that linear mode happen, which is either going to boost or kill these things. Portageville, still very strong rotation, not so strong inflow, so we'll see if it's able to sustain itself. But spectrum width is indicating we have a lot of turbulence in that area, not seeing any debris, so hopefully nothing on the ground, but that's a very strong signal there. Right matched up with the rotation. We could see something happen. I guarantee you there's a wall cloud on that somewhere. Portageville, just moving through your area, headed towards Bessie. I would not be surprised to see a new tornado warning on this. If we do, it's probably going to be somewhere in the vicinity of looking kind of like this as this storm starts to move, maybe a little further south. These are all taking a pretty hard right turn, but we are seeing a very significant supercell structure in here. And that kind of gets stretched out here along with the hodograph as we expected. Plenty of clean inflow. This thing is out kind of all by itself, getting fed into the back end here. We do have an RFD present as well. So there is a possibility that this produces a tornado here very soon. Again, lots of instability, unstable, turbulent air on spectrum width, and as we go through the upper levels, keep scanning higher and higher in the atmosphere, we have dominant rotation on this storm. Not just a fluke, we kind of have some possible okay, you know what, I'm gonna stop trying to just talk and say nothing. We have little tiny vortices indicated by this turbulence down here feeding into this main circulation. And if you watch, there's a 250 trillion grid point simulation of, I believe, the Moore EF5 tornado done by Leigh Orff. You can look it up on YouTube. It's fascinating if you're a nerd. And it shows that oftentimes these tornadoes are formed by a bunch of tiny little vortices kind of spinning in there. We have the tornado warning continuing here, but it will need to be expanded to the south here very soon as this storm continues. Take a right turn. Current approximate direction I could give you is kind of headed that way. Maybe a little of that, maybe a little of that, but we're going to need to see a new tornado warning in this area if this continues to misbehave, which it is doing right now. Back down to the Jonesboro system. Upper levels, not seeing much, and as we start to scan the lower levels, also not seeing much. Potential for a bookend vortex to form somewhere in this area. So Manette and Leechville, you're going to want to keep an eye on this. This thing could produce a tornado on the very northern end of this storm. Keep a very close eye on it. Have your weather radio or multiple ways to get warnings. Down south, we actually have a new storm. Hold on. New storm down near Little Rock. It's favorably oriented. If this is able to get enough instability, which it's down near Little Rock, so it does have enough instability. There's right here on the nodes of this 3000 Cape, it is broken through. If this is able to sustain itself, this could be another individual supercell that we see produce something, or at least get tornado warned. Violent tornado parameter is not very high down there though, but it may expand as kind of the energy to this moves further south and heads down towards western Tennessee. So we will want to watch this. We'll check back in on that every once in a while. It's got a supercell shape, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see something come out of it here soon. If we keep watching this southern one, we're starting to see possibly some tornado genesis here as this is taking on. It used to be shaped kind of like this, and now we've got that kind of distinctive bean shape following the hodograph going on here. So it is latching on to some surface-based shear likely, headed towards Harrisburg. Keep an eye on this. We may see a tornado warning for it soon if it's able to develop enough in this area down near Fisher. Lake City, you're about to be slammed by some pretty serious hail and wind. These storms are warned for 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and almost 2 inches of hail. So that is a pretty significant severe threat to keep an eye on. But that is still potentially going to be our storm of the day down south near Harrisburg. As this interacts with the line, it's going to have a very brief period where it is possible that it could rapidly spin something up. Let's take another look down near Little Rock here. I want to scan kind of further up, some upper levels here. You can see that it's running right along this boundary. Now this boundary could produce some issues And I love this. This is a great little example of kind of the hodograph that we're seeing. Very small storm, but it's there. So this storm is a little chink in the line here, a little bit of vorticity kind of popping up on this one. Headed almost directly east towards Griffithville, and as we scan further up, we can see that it is, again, it has that classic supercell shape. I would keep an eye on this one. It may at least go severe warned, if not tornado warned, by the time it gets to, I don't know, maybe Griffithville or Georgetown. Yeah, I like this one for tornado development. Not a huge fan of this one unless we get something bookend up near Brooklyn. Brookland. I need to pronounce it correctly. Have a bit of something trying to happen here. Not expecting anything, but just kind of want to mention that. Headed towards Mayfield at the moment. Portageville storm is starting to get its inflow choked off by rain. It's definitely going high precipitation. And the area of turbulence has stopped, so I would say, as of now, at least for the moment, tornado threat on that is dropping. Got some stuff to comment on. Again, that Waldenburg storm is probably going to be the next one. This Jonesboro thing isn't able to pull itself together. We're probably going to see something out of the Waldenburg, as it is the tail end Charlie farthest south storm right now, and definitely has the potential for getting warned for a tornado here soon. Latest tornado warning that has been issued is in Ohio. This system is lighting back up as this QLCS, quasi-linear conductive system, is showing potential for producing plenty of tornadoes up in this area. Little spin-up tornadoes all up and down along this line. This southern one may actually be an embedded supercell as well. There's a very slight area of rotation in it. Not much of a radar presentation for these, but there's enough rotation there to be concerning enough. So we've got a couple new tornado warnings up that way. Aside from that area, that's pretty much it. We're going to want to keep watching these as they try and get their act back together. All right, we are seeing more defined rotation headed towards Monette on this storm as well. Far east of Jonesboro now and southeast of Brooklyn. We are seeing that happen, and it is not a... It's not a bookend anymore. It's got a supercell going on here. Lots and lots of inflow. Way out ahead of everything. It's got a beautiful environment to interact with, unfortunately. So we'll want to keep an eye on this as it tries to produce again. We may see a new tornado warning issued, and if it is in fact issued, probably going to see it generally in kind of this area here. Is probably going to be where our next warning ends up being. So Manila and Dell, Monette especially, please be ready to get to your safe place. Blytheville and Burdett as well. This thing is kind of generally starting on a southeast sort of track, so that could be a problem if it gets its act together. Always the condition, but this Waldenberg cell may try something here soon. It may not as well. It could be totally useless and not produce anything at all, but we are seeing initiation down near Little Rock. This is the next area of concern. Kind of keep tracking ourselves down further south as these storms decide to track down that way. I always forget to change my lights. We're low budget here, folks. So this is going to be a supercell. That's for certain. That's pretty much a given at this point. Scan the upper levels, and all of these little pop-ups are actually pretty significant. They haven't all gotten surface-based yet, as they're very close to Little Rock, but there's a visible boundary on this southern one here. If it's able to become a supercell, that could present a problem. But this thing is riding the boundary, like right on it. That is a perfect spot for a potential tornado producer if it wants to actually get some favorable shear headed into it. Bulk shear down near that area, about 50 knots, 55 knots, definitely favorable. Significant tornado parameter. There's a cell way down in South Arkansas, actually. Let's take a look at that. Not seeing much going on with that, but I suppose if it's able to get its act together, that these could also be a problem as well. But as we are kind of in a lull right now, I would expect the lull is probably going to pick itself back up here after a little bit, but I'm going to take a break and probably get some dinner. I may be live again later tonight, or I may be sheltering if these things decide to produce a tornado near here. Again, Monette, Manila, and Dell, Black Oak, keep an eye out for a new tornado warning here soon. But that is going to do it for the stream for now, as I have some other life to attend to, including eating. So, stay weather aware, keep an eye on this stuff. Keep an eye on the Harrisburg cell and the Lake City cell. I will be posting about these even if I am not live. But that'll do it for now. Thank y'all for watching. I'm going to keep trying to do these things more often. Just do some decent weather coverage, try my hand at it. So we'll see what happens, but have a good night.